Hey everyone, I'm Adam and I've been working on a little game where you fight enemies and summon skeletons from their corpses to fight for you. So I figured, let's get back into game development with something fun, like creating new enemies, or baby steps. Let's simply start with some new assets. So I made a simple shield and a bow and arrow the next day. I figured I should rig the bow, but then I very quickly found out that it's much more complicated than I expected. So instead I found this tutorial by Eraser's 45 Studios. I followed along and it worked out pretty well after that. Thank you AI voice man. I figured I should start making some bow animations on the enemy. It's gonna be easy, no problem. And then I spent 20 minutes just trying to attach the bow to the character's hand. Not because it's necessary, just for guidance while I animate. But eventually I kind of got it to work, and I made a bunch of animations. All the while having the expectation that it's going to behave completely differently once it's imported to Unity. Okay, words can't describe how wrong this went. Oh, wait. I guess I just put the wrong animation into the animator state. So I wrote a script that forces the bow's position and rotation to always be 0. Feels like a scuff solution, but it works. Okay, after some manual adjustments, it does work. So after a lot of fiddling around, we have an enemy that can pull and shoot the bow. But obviously he's supposed to be aiming towards the player. So... Alright, so after messing around for a while, I managed to fix the enemy rotation by adding a 40-degree offset to the animations. I don't even know what most of these settings do. Anyway, let's implement the arrow shooting. Alright, so we want to shoot the arrows in an arc rather than a straight line, and we're gonna need some big brain maths for that. On that note, I've said before that I don't want to outsource all my work to AI, but I'm monkey brain and no way I could figure out all that math. So, let's ask ChatGPT. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see how it works. None? NANI? So I was tweaking the shooting for quite a while, iterating with ChatGPT, but it seems like if we are setting the force too low, then the arrow just flies in a limp way, and if we set it high, the arc will be way too big and doesn't even hit the player. Sometimes the arrow flies just right, but that is very dependent on the player being the right distance away from the archer. I asked ChatGPT to add the variable to limit the arc height and also tried scaling the shooting force depending on the distance from the target. In the end, none of it worked out. So, we're just gonna postpone this thing until the next video. In the meantime, I decided to refactor my AI scripts. Big mistake. So, I started making this new and supposedly improved AI by creating an AI base class that the other classes will inherit from. It handles the state machine stuff, movement, health, taking damage, looking for targets, etc. Now, creating new AIs should be as simple as making a class that extends the AI base class, and then overriding the virtual methods when we need some different behavior. Or if the new AI child needs a whole new state, we can add the new int state variable in the child class, create the corresponding methods, override the virtual update method to include the new state we added, and also override the evaluate state, entered and exited methods to include the new state. Okay, maybe that sounds like a lot of things to do, but at least we don't have to redundantly duplicate the code in the AI base class, right? And now, when debugging, instead of having to look for the issue in one script, we have to look for it in a bunch of separate scripts. Anyway, there's another new problem with this. If, for example, we have a melee base and an archer base class, we'll have an enemy and a companion extend from each of these. But then, the unique companion logic will have to be written twice. we can't implement that logic on the base class because then the enemies would inherit it unnecessarily. Or what if instead of those base classes we had an enemy and a companion base? In that case, we'd have to write the melee, archer and other fighter logic again for each new class. I was hung up on this for a while, but eventually decided to go with the first solution, which in retrospect might be obviously the better solution. But alright, next topic. Remember that shield I modeled at the start of this video? Time to implement that. I duplicated the enemy and attached the shield, made the shield AI base extending from the AI base and all that jazz. So, the enemy has a chance to enter the guard state when entering combat, and while in the guard state, when hit, will compare the attacker and the enemy rotations by calculating their dot product. If they are looking in the opposite direction of each other, then the attack should be blocked, otherwise the attack must be coming from behind the enemy and damage will be dealt. Let's just assume that this was totally easy to implement and I didn't have to do a bunch of debugging on my AI scripts. Now, on to the topic that should be even more fun. I've been thinking of a cool new spell for a while. It involves summoning big crystal spikes out of the ground, you know, kinda like Guardians do in Donnie's map. I modeled some crystals in Blender, then throw that in the bin and do it again, this time with Blender's Carver add-on. Shout out to Jitspo for introducing that to me. Also made some casting animations on the player of course. Write code, add some polish, some fancy effects and animations. There you go. Maybe I could make it possible to summon several crystals in a row, but not this time. We might implement that in the next video. In the meantime, now that we have that fancy crystal spell, the original fireball spell seems kinda lame in comparison. So to polish it up, I made a new wind-up animation and effects. So anyway, I said in the last video that I wanted to finish this game by the third devlog, but that's obviously not happening in this one, so we'll keep doing this for a while longer. This devlog has also been under construction for far too long, so it's time to call it a day. Thanks for watching, smash like if you want, and see you in 2025 probably.